Snow had just begun to fall when the black sedan stopped outside the glittering hotel ballroom. Inside, laughter and music spilled through tall glass doors, the warm golden lights of the annual Christmas charity, dinner glowing against the cold December night. Daniel Carter sat behind the wheel for a moment longer than necessary. In the passenger seat beside him, his 8-year-old daughter Lily pressed her small hand against the window, watching the snowflakes drift down like feathers. Her dark curls framed a quiet, thoughtful face. Lily couldn't hear the music or the laughter. She had been born deaf. Daniel reached over and gently tapped her shoulder. She turned toward him with a bright smile. He lifted his hands and signed slowly, carefully, his movements slightly stiff but filled with effort. "Ready?" Lily's eyes sparkled. She nodded enthusiastically. Daniel smiled back, though a familiar knot of worry tightened in his chest. This dinner mattered. A lot. As CEO of Carter Logistics, Daniel was expected to attend the city's biggest Christmas charity gala every year. Investors, board members, politicians. It was a room full of people who watched his every move. But tonight was different. Tonight he had brought Lily. Usually she stayed home with her aunt during events like this. Crowds made things complicated. Conversations were hard. People didn't know how to talk to her. Sometimes they pitied her. Sometimes they ignored her. Daniel hated both. But earlier that afternoon, Lily had watched him tying his tie in the mirror and signed a question. "Christmas party?" Daniel had nodded. Then she asked the question that broke his heart. "Can I ever go?" He'd hesitated for only a second before answering. "Tonight." And now, as they stepped into the glowing lobby, Daniel felt every curious glance in the room. People recognized him instantly. "Daniel, good to see you," someone called. "Mr. Carter, congratulations on the new expansion. CEO of the year right here." Daniel smiled politely, shaking hands, exchanging greetings. But Lily stood slightly behind him, her small fingers gripping his sleeve. The ballroom doors opened. Inside, it was dazzling. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Tables draped in red and gold filled the room. A massive Christmas tree stood in the center, covered in lights that shimmered like stars. A live band played cheerful holiday music on stage. But Lily heard none of it. Her eyes moved around the room, curious yet uncertain. Daniel crouched slightly and signed to her. "Beautiful?" She nodded, though her smile seemed smaller now. The noise, the movement, the unfamiliar faces, it was overwhelming. Daniel led her to their assigned table near the center of the room. Several guests were already seated. Business partners, donors, community leaders. Their conversations paused briefly when Daniel approached. "And this must be Lily," one woman said kindly. Lily smiled politely. Daniel signed introductions to her, explaining each person's name. Some people tried to smile back. Others simply nodded awkwardly, unsure how to communicate. The dinner began. Speeches, applause, laughter. Daniel tried to follow the conversations around him, while also translating bits of what was happening for Lily. But it wasn't easy. He had learned sign language for her, of course. When Lily was diagnosed as a baby, Daniel had thrown himself into learning everything he could. Still, in a room like this, he felt clumsy, slow, incomplete. At one point, Lily looked around the table, watching everyone laugh at a joke she hadn't heard. Her smile faded slightly. Daniel's heart tightened. He signed quickly. "Sorry, hard to explain." Lily nodded, pretending it was okay. That's when something unexpected happened. From across the room, someone was watching them, a man sitting alone at a nearby table. He looked to be in his mid-30s, wearing a simple navy suit that didn't quite match the luxury of the event. Beside him sat a little boy, maybe 6 years old, playing quietly with a folded napkin. The man noticed Lily's expression. Then he noticed Daniel's hands, and slowly he stood up. Daniel was halfway through another conversation when someone gently tapped his shoulder. He turned. The man from the other table stood there with a warm, slightly nervous smile. "Hi," he said. Daniel nodded politely. "Hi." The man glanced at Lily and then raised his hands. In one smooth, natural motion, he began signing. "Hello, Lily. My name is Mark. Merry Christmas." Lily froze. Her eyes widened in pure surprise. Then, slowly, a bright smile spread across her face. The kind of smile Daniel hadn't seen all evening. She quickly signed back. Hello? Daniel blinked. You know sign language? He asked. Mark chuckled softly. Yeah, he said. My little sister is deaf. I've been signing since I was 10. Lily and Mark continued signing easily, their conversation flowing with natural rhythm. Daniel watched, stunned. For the first time that night, Lily looked completely comfortable. She laughed silently as Mark exaggerated a funny story with playful gestures. Even Mark's son joined in, waving awkwardly. My name is Ethan, he said shyly, speaking aloud. Lily signed to him. Mark translated. She says she likes your snowflake napkin. Ethan grinned proudly. Within minutes, the tension around Lily had melted away. Daniel felt something warm settle in his chest. Would you like to join us? He asked. Mark hesitated. I don't want to interrupt. Please, Daniel insisted. They moved seats, and suddenly the entire evening changed. Mark translated speeches into quick signs for Lily. He joked with her. He even showed Ethan how to sign simple words like thank you, tree, and friend. Lily glowed with happiness. At one point, she signed something quickly to Mark, who laughed. What did she say? Daniel asked. Mark smiled. She said this is the first Christmas party where she doesn't feel invisible. The words hit Daniel harder than he expected. Invisible. He had worked so hard to give Lily everything. The best schools, therapists, support. But tonight he realized something simple. What she needed most was connection. Later in the evening, during the charity auction, the host announced a program supporting children with hearing disabilities. Mark leaned toward Daniel. That's actually why I'm here, he said quietly. I work with a nonprofit that teaches sign language to families. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Really? Mark nodded. Most deaf kids grow up in families that never fully learn to communicate with them, he said gently. We try to change that. Daniel looked at Lily, laughing with Ethan. How many families do you reach? He asked. Mark sighed. Not enough. Funding is always tight. The auction continued on stage. Expensive vacations, luxury cars, diamond jewelry. Daniel barely noticed. An idea had already begun forming in his mind. Finally, the host lifted the microphone again. And now, she said, our final fundraiser of the night. Daniel stood up. The room quieted immediately. When the CEO of Carter Logistics stood, people paid attention. He walked slowly toward the stage. Lily watched him, curious. Mark signed to her. Your dad is going up there. Daniel took the microphone. For a moment, he looked out across the elegant room filled with powerful people. Then he glanced at Lily. She sat between Mark and Ethan, smiling. Daniel cleared his throat. Tonight, he began, I brought my daughter Lily to her first Christmas dinner like this. The room listened. She's 8 years old, he continued. She's brilliant, funny, and she's deaf. A quiet murmur moved through the crowd. Daniel continued. I've spent years trying to give her every opportunity possible. But tonight I realized something important. He paused. For most of this evening, my daughter felt alone in a room full of hundreds of people. The silence grew deeper. Then Daniel gestured toward Mark. Until someone she had never met walked across the room and spoke her language. All eyes turned toward Mark and Lily. Lily blinked in surprise. Daniel's voice softened. That moment reminded me that kindness isn't complicated. Sometimes it's just the courage to step forward. He took a breath. So tonight, Carter Logistics will be donating $2 million to expand sign language, education programs for families across the country. The room erupted. Gasps, applause. Mark looked stunned. Daniel smiled. And we'll be partnering with Mark's organization to make it happen. Mark's jaw dropped. Lily looked from one to the other, confused. Mark quickly signed to her what had happened. Her eyes widened. Then she looked at her father. Tears filled her eyes. Daniel stepped down from the stage and returned to the table. Lily jumped into his arms. Thank you, she signed fiercely. Daniel hugged her tightly. Across the table, Mark smiled quietly, his son leaning against him. Outside, snow continued to fall softly over the glowing city. Inside that ballroom, something simple had changed the night. One small act of kindness, one conversation, one smile that proved something powerful. Sometimes the most meaningful language in the world isn't spoken at all.